So, what are we going to do here as we come into our final hours together? There are a lot of things we could do. My goal, obviously, is to always have you leave with the strongest amount of your emotion geared in your body, because that's what's going to get you to go follow through. At the same time, I look at this program, and no matter how much we pour into it, no matter how much we put you in overwhelm, as you can only imagine, there's so many things that I know are available and needed for your businesses that aren't here. So trying to figure out, what do we put in here strategically? And so I'd like to roll the dice on something that may not be as emotionally exciting, but probably more valuable. And that is a planning process. And so you might have to, for this last part, really manage your own state a little bit. But I'd like to introduce you to what I call RPM, the rapid planning method. And RPM is an experience that when you master the thinking of RPM, you don't have to use the system itself even. You don't have to use a particular, mechanical system in terms of how you do this on your computer or calculator or on paper or whatever. But if you take on this thinking system, your entire planning process will transform, and so will you emotionally. And most people in life, when they're trying to plan something, when they're trying to put something together, like plan their day, we all learned yesterday that what controls our focus controls our life. Whatever we focus on, we feel, even if it's not true. Do you agree with me on this, yes or no? And everything's trying to get our focus all the time, right? Advertising's trying to get our focus. Your phone's ringing, in your pocket it's buzzing, and that buzz is either your phone, or it's an email, or it's a text. There's this constant something trying to get control of our focus. But what you focus on determines your destiny in your life. So if you don't take control of it, somebody else will. And so the challenge is, even when we try to take control of our own focus, even we try and attempt to do this, usually there's so much distraction that it becomes very difficult to do it. And even if you did it in the traditional way, and you were going to go out tomorrow, and you're going to plan your day, or you're going to plan your week, you're going to go home. In order to plan it, you're going to have to come up with some answers for the week. And the question you're going to ask, if you don't know RPM, is what? What do I need to? Say it nice and loud. What do I need to? And that's a good question. It's much better than, why do I have to do this? It's much better than, what the hell do I do? A few modifiers around that language and you'll feel very different, won't you? So when you ask, what should I do? The answer you're going to get is usually based on whatever is most pressing on you at that moment. And what tends to press us is either something painful, right? Right now I got to do this, because if I don't do this, something's going to happen. Or something that we want, something pleasurable. Is that true? Or it could be our own sense of vision. But that's usually the last thing that we focus on. How many agree with me on this? Say aye. So let's say, for example, someone keeps coming to you and goes, I need this, and I need this, and I need this. And they do that in the form of your text. They do that in the form of a phone call. They do that in the form of an email. They do that in the form of walking up to you and go, hey, Tony, can I ask you a question? And right in that moment, they're coming to you and they're asking for the most valuable thing you have in life, your focus. Because out of your focus, you're going to put your attention, your energy, your intellect, your emotion, your thoughts, your lifeblood. And the way you invest focus is the way you invest thought, feeling, emotion, and life. And wherever you spend that focus is going to determine what you end up with in this life and what you're able to give in this life. So focus, bless you, is the single most important component you got to learn to take control of. And most of us are not very good at this. Primarily because the culture has conditioned us to respond to what we need to do. And when you're coming up here, Dr. Ruth here in front of me, and she goes, Tony, what I need to do right now is being dictated by the environment, not necessarily by what is most important for me or my mission or my direction or my life. Now, in a seminar, it's appropriate most of the time because this is what I'm here to do. But even in seminars, sometimes I have to say, can I get back to you in a moment? Because I have to do this because I'm also running this damn thing. I'm not just on stage, right? So the combination makes me have to look at it. And there's an army of people back here running it, and I got to help them, or they got to help me, and a lot of moving parts. So sometimes I got to stop and not let you take my focus, even though I'd like to give it to you. But if I were to ask, what do I need to do? I'm going to get a certain quality of answer. Now, let me give you an example of what I mean. True story. President, I won't go any deeper than what I can reveal without being disrespectful in any way, shape, or form. I would never do that. But it's a known fact, because it got out in the newspapers. There was a stage when President Clinton called me. And when he called me, he literally called me up and said, and I'd known him for a little while and worked with him prior, but he called me up and said, they're going to impeach me in the morning. What should I do? And I kid about it today. I said to him, well, could you have called me sooner? But what truthfully I said after that was, I can give you my answer to that question, but I don't know if that's really the question you want to answer. Because the answer, what you should do, requires a different question to be asked first, which is, what's the most important to you? Because if what's most important to you is to stay in office, then obviously you should just keep doing what you're doing, because even though they'll go try to impeach you, they won't have enough votes and you'll stay in office. But if your outcome, what do you want? What's your outcome? What's the result you're after? That changes what you do. If your outcome is to regain respect from mothers, fathers, what they can say to their children about the President of the United States, then based on that, you might have to do something different. And I said, it's easy for me to say, because I'm not in your position, and I'm not facing an inquiry in the legal side. And he said, yeah. And I said, but you're also a lawyer. Now, you certainly know the law. And I said, you know what you can say. He goes, yeah, well, you don't have somebody coming at you, stars coming after me. He's trying to do this, trying to do that. I said, I know that. So I'm not telling you what to do. You're just asking me what to do. I won't tell you that. First, you got to tell me, what do you want? If you don't know your outcome, if you don't know the real result you're over, and you answer what to do, you may even get what you want. You may do that, get the result, but it's not the result you really wanted. That's, again, the difference between strategy and tactics, isn't it? Which is one of the single most important lessons I hope we got across to you this week. So you got to learn to ask a different question than what to do, because how many of you found out that it doesn't matter what the day in your life is? If you really write down everything you got to do, there's no way in hell you could do it all. How many agree with me on this? Raise your hand and say aye. So most of you start out in the old days with a little time management book, and you used to write down all your to-dos, right? How many used to have one of these? Right? You write down all your to-dos, and then in the early days, you actually put like A, B, C priority maybe in the very beginning. Anybody get that anal to be able to do that? Separate them out so you focus on the priorities, and then maybe even plan when you were going to do them in your day. And that lasted about how long? You still carried that book around with you in those days when it was on paper, remember that? But what it was your address book in those days, because you didn't have an iPhone, right? It was your calendar and your address book and a few crappy things you wrote down, but you never sat down and wrote the whole list out, because you knew you weren't going to do it all, and it just felt like hell every day to rewrite it all. Who can relate with what I'm saying as being true? Say aye. So when I only had one company to run, I was just a kid, I went to one of those programs prior to the days of Franklin and Covey and all those guys. It was called the Time Bank. And we had this 3-ring binder like this. It was so cool, and it had its tabs and had my calendar in the front so I could schedule things, and have these daily little tabs. I could plan out the day and write my to-do lists. And then it had my A through Z's in the back where I could file under people's names and things, all the details I needed. And then that was all the phone information, because there wasn't email in those days. And you carried around this little mini suitcase with these big rings, and it worked really cool. It was great. But I learned once I had 2 companies, and then 3, and then 4, then 5, there was no way. My to-do list got bigger and bigger and never got to be done. And I found myself not writing it down, and then I found myself doing it in my head. And I got a pretty good memory, but man, that was painful. I felt the shock of it all over again. Bottom line is, I said, there's got to be a better way. And I kept thinking, what controls our life is what we focus on. What we focus on, we feel. What we feel and focus on, we move towards. Wherever focus goes, energy flows. So wherever your focus goes, energy flows. So if I want to control my focus, the most powerful way is by asking what? Better questions. So I need to come up with a better question, because what to do is a painful question. And it's a stupid question very often. When you're starving hungry on the first day, what to do is obvious. Go get some food. But some of you, in spite of the hunger, and those of you who've never been to a program in my mind, the pissed offness with Tony Robbins that he would go so long, People went back, they go, but this is not right. And so they said, then go get some food. They go, no, but I don't want to miss it. Now, our fault for not communicating in advance, but the point of the matter is most of you decided what to do based on a larger outcome than the urgency of current pain. You decided, no, what's most important is to get this material, even if it's a little painful in the short term. I can eat a little bit. I'm hungry, but I can survive. I'm not in Africa. This is not the last meal that I've had for 6 weeks. There may be some body fat I could be burning in the next 2 hours while I'm learning. Who knows? You know, maybe. Maybe I'm not really dying. Maybe that's just the language I use, and the language I use is producing my emotion. People say they're starving. Really? Look in the mirror. Are you starving? No, I didn't say that to anybody because no one came up and said anything to me about it. That Tony. Oh, Tony, will you take a picture with me? Yes, of course, right? My point is this. Where focus goes, energy flows. You must control your focus. You do it with questions. If you ask the same questions as everyone else, you end up with the same answers. So, how did Bill Gates change his economic world? He was a software designer who didn't say, how do I make better software? He asked, and caught everyone else to ask, how do we become the intelligence that controls all computers worldwide? How do we become the intelligence that controls all computers worldwide? Now, when that's your outcome, do you end up with a different to-do list than if your outcome is to build the best software, yes or no? Yes. And that's why he's one of the richest men on earth. Change your question, change your life. When it comes to planning your life, I want to get you to learn to ask 3 questions now. And the first one is not, what am I going to do? And how many understand why now? Say I. The question you want to ask yourself is, what do I want? What's my outcome? What's my result? The word RPM, the first one is to get you focused on the target. The target is not the activity. The activity can change. It's what's the result I'm after. If you know exactly what it is you really want, what you desire, what you're really after, clarity is power. The more clear you are and specifically what you want, the faster your brain can get you there. But if you're generally saying things like, what do I want? Well, you know, I want more money. Fine, here's $1, get out of here. Did you achieve the outcome? Yeah, when you're that general, you think you're not getting your goal, you are. The way you language your goal, the way you think about it, you're receiving it. I want to feel a bit better. I want to lose some weight. Fine, you lost a pound, you're done. Because your brain's like a servo mechanism and a bomb and a missile. In the old days, you shoot a missile and the target was going, and if you missed the trajectory, you missed it. Today, what happens when the missile's not on course? What happens? It locks on the heat signature, and what does it do? It moves and follows it. That's the way your brain is if it knows the outcome, if it knows the result. So RPM starts with, I got to know the result. This is a results planning system. The rapid planning method, but you can think of it as a results planning system. I need to know the result I'm after before I ever ask myself what to do. That takes more time, but it's worth it. Now, for time's sake, I'm not going to do this with you right now, but I'll tell you what I do when I've taught this to people and I've got a full weekend to do this in. Just to give you a picture. If I asked you right now to write out your name, your full name. Now, some of you abbreviate your signature, but write out your full name in cursive. Go and do that one time. Write out your full name in cursive. I can't even use the word cursive. Is that really the word people still use? It means in handwriting, I guess, but in cursive. Just write it out full name, because you can do this later on. Full name. If you normally abbreviate, don't do that. You have to write out the full name. Now, if I had you get with a partner, and you can try this later if you want. I'm just going to tell you because I don't want to take the time because we have such limited time today. And I have your partner say to you with a stopwatch here, okay, ready? And I go, go. And you write it out. And you tell me when you're done. I go, stop. And I write down how long that was. So let's say you wrote out your signature and it took 5 seconds. And I say, ready? Write it out. Ready? Go. You tell me when you're done. Stop. And I write down 5 seconds. I have to do that 10 times. You'll find in the beginning, you'll be, let's say, 6 seconds. I'm making it up. Everybody's signature is different. And you probably might get down to as little as 5 seconds. If you have like an iPhone, you could do it as a digital stopwatch. You could see the middle seconds. Then I say to you, I want you guys to write every other letter in cursive. In other words, you're going to write half as many letters. How long do you think it would take to do it? Half as much time? Most of you will take twice as much time in the beginning, and then eventually, what's interesting is, if I do it 10 times, and the last 2 or 3, and this makes no logical sense, and again, I don't want to take the time to have all of you do this 10 times, 10 times, 10 times, but you can go do it on your own, I'll just tell you the result. In most cases, even though you're doing half as many letters, you cut it by 2/3 of the time. There's something happens when you break an old pattern and you do it fresh. Your brain over the years has learned ways to move more rapidly since when you did your original signature, and you'll do it in 1/3 the amount of time. It'll take twice as much at first, and then it'll cost you 1/3 amount of time. Now let me tell you why I'm telling you this. The system I'm calling the rapid planning method, by the time I show it to you, you're gonna go, this takes more time than just making my to-do list. When will it take more time? When? Initially. But once you get it in your nervous system, it'll take you less time because your brain will be thinking in outcomes and not activities. And when you think in terms of outcomes and not activities, pretty soon some of the activities in your list you don't even need to do to get the outcome. You find a better way to get the outcome quicker. Now, how do you do that? Yes, 3 questions. Question 1, what is my result? What is my outcome? What is it I really, truly want from this? If you're going back next week, and you say this next week, what are the most important what? Outcomes for me to get this week in my business. And you just write those outcomes out, not your action items, the outcomes. If you do that and nothing else, you'll be ahead of the game. And if you just keep looking at those outcomes every day, how am I doing on that outcome? Your brain will come up with ways to get to that outcome. I promise you. Focus on outcomes, not on activities. Action for most people, activities, most people may mistake movement for achievement. They mistake action items and to-dos for achievement. We're after the achievement. Are you with me on this? Yes or no? Yes. It's a different way of thinking, and I think all of you inherently have it, but if you make this ritualized, just like the things you've learned this week, they're all great, but if you don't systematize them, they'll work when you do them. But if you systematize them, right? And you see like Mr. Hallman here, where he goes in and just does it and makes sure it's being done again, or what you've seen Chet do, or what I do. You just do it over and over again, you don't miss it. Now the results are geometric. So I want to get you to systematize the thinking, whether you do it visually the way I'm going to show you or not. So, first question, what's the result I'm after? What's the ultimate result? What do I want out of this week, out of this thing, out of my business, out of my life, for my body? And you want to be as what as possible when you describe that outcome, that result. As what? As clear and specific as possible. Generalities will confuse you. So it might take you longer than just writing down call so-and-so to think, if I'm calling my son, I'm going to call Jarek, or I'm going to call my brother. This is what goes through my head before I call him, always. What's my outcome? Because I don't want to just call him. I want Jarek to feel loved by his dad, or I'm thinking about what's my outcome. I've got to talk to him about this thing that's out there. I've got to make sure I get through to him on this because I want to guide him and move him in this direction. That's what I want to be as his father. I don't want to just chit-chat. I can do that too. If you think before every phone call, before every time you're planning your day, and you think before you have any meeting, what do you think the first thing I ask of anyone when we sit down in a meeting is? Okay, what are your outcomes? What are the outcomes for this meeting? First thing I want to know, because if I know the outcomes, guess what? A lot of meetings, they're done pretty quick. Because if I know the outcome, you don't have to go through all the activities to sell me on it. Just, that's your outcome? How do you want to do it? Sounds good to me. Rock. That's how you make a meeting productive. I know a meeting's productive not by the hours or time. Sometimes it takes longer to the outcome than you want, but I'm going to get the outcome. That's, by the way, what you see with me on stage. That's why my times vary, but it's based on an outcome. I'm going to get that outcome. I don't give a damn whether it's the right time or not. I want to do it in that time, but I must deliver the outcome. How many get that? And by the way, how many like to have your company focused on outcomes, results, and not activities? Say aye. People say all the time, well, did you get that done? Well, I left them an email. I left them a voicemail. I've sent them 3 emails. How many times you heard that? When that happens with me, I'm like, but I don't show it. I just like, really? Wow, that's fascinating. We'll explain about our culture. It's about getting the result. So I can help you if you can't figure another way to do it, but there may be 12 other things we might want to do. Maybe they don't have the answer. Maybe somebody else can give us the answer. The outcome was to get this information, not to leave an email or 12 or 3 voicemails. That will not do any of us any good. How many follow? Now, whether you get the outcome or not, whether you get that result, will be based, first, do you have clarity? And the second thing is, whether you got enough emotional juice to keep going after it when things don't work out. So the second part of RPM is the purpose. RPM, by the way, how many knows what it means when you increase the RPMs in a car? Anybody here? What does that do? It builds up what? Power, speed. Higher RPMs, you can explode through something, right? You can make something happen. So think of this metaphorically also, this rapid planning method, this result planning method. So it's rapid planning, it's a result planning. You want a results-focused, purpose-driven, massive action culture. That's what RPM stands for. It's how you build up power and you break through. But whether or not you get that result will be, are you clear and specific? But also, do you have enough juice when it doesn't work out? How many of you are going after an outcome in your day or in your week, and for whatever reason, you're not able to get it? The person doesn't respond, they're not there, the thing's not there, something interferes, somebody interrupts you. Who's had their plans interrupted? Raise your hand, say I. So whether you keep doing it or not is, do you have enough emotional juice? See, guys, you all know out of this week, you got more than enough to take your business to a whole nother level. You got more ways. You can go home and be artists now. And somebody, went by so fast, but many of you get the program, you'll watch enough times, you'll be there. Somebody's going to invite us in, we're going to be there and make sure you do it. So it's going to happen. But the art of it being followed through or not is going to come, do you have the emotion to follow through? And that needs to be a part of your thinking also. So the next question I've always asked, besides the outcome, is why? Why is more important than how? Why are we doing this? What's the purpose? Purpose is more powerful than object. Purpose is more powerful than object. You say, I want $1 million. That's a great objective. I want $1 billion. Great objective. I want to feed 3,000 children in my community. That's a beautiful objective. It's even more specific. But even that objective, you might get excited about, so you realize what it takes to feed 3,000 kids, right? And the politics involved, and all the people that don't follow through. And then you have this good intention, and somebody else is pissed off because one of the kids didn't get fed. Right? And you did everything you know how to do. What's going to make you keep going? Purpose. Why do you want to feed those 3,000 kids? Why do you want to make that $1 million, that $1 billion? Why are you going to take your business to the next level? Why is the most important thing to know? Because that's where all the emotional juice and fuel is to actually get you to go through when the challenges show up. Every person you see who's on fire and is successful knows the why. You know what the problem is? You might know the why in the beginning. You wrote a mission statement and stuff like that. You got to know why you're doing this right now. This right now. That's what's going to engage you and activate the why. You might have a why, but it's not active. How many follow the difference when I'm talking about here? Say I. Otherwise, that little law of familiarity shows up. Well, we're doing this because da-da-da-da-da, and you repeat the why, but it has no emotion behind it. See, if I take a stick pin, no, I don't see anything like that, but you know when a woman has a blouse and they have like a little stick pin in it? Let's think that stick pin is a word. And I take that stick pin and I throw it at you. Are you going to feel it? Barely. What if I take that little stick pin called a word and I wire it to the back of a giant iron bar called emotion? Now I can take that stick pin and put that thing right through your heart. That's the power of why. RPM. R is the result, the outcome. What you're after, P is the purpose. It's the why. 80% of success is why. 20% is how. Get a big enough why, people will figure out how to do it. Yes. How many agree with me on this? Say I. So you better know your why. So, talking to the president, tell me something. What's your outcome? And then why? And then once we know the why, we know what you're after and why, then the question is, how do we do it? We know what we're after, why, how do we do it? By the way, are there lots of hows to get to an outcome, yes or no? Yes. Are there many paths to get a result, yes or no? Yes. Some are more efficient than others. And you're not going to know. So you know what you do? You brainstorm out all the hows you can think of. All the things you could possibly need to do to get that result. And then you narrow it down to the 20% that makes 80% of the difference. And you'll find out you don't have to do that whole to-do list. In fact, wouldn't it be nice to write your whole to-do list and not do it and still get the outcome? How many prefer that? Say I. That's RPM. I love it when I don't do my to-dos and I got the outcome. That's the coolest thing in the world. You might have done one or two of them, but it's then learning selectively which ones are going to create it. But the only way to do that is to brainstorm out the M, the massive action plan. If I know the result I'm after, I know what it is I want, what's the outcome, what's the result, what do I want specifically, clearly, and I know the why, and the why has got to move who? Who does the why have to matter to?
Everybody around you.
Well, if it's a why you're trying to get everybody to deal with, they got to have a why involved in it. But people do things for different reasons. People donate money for different reasons. Some of you donated money the other day here because you were moved by the experience. Some of you did it for connection. Some of you did it to contribute. Some of you felt guilty if you didn't do it because somebody else did beside you. Or you have a lot of money and you feel guilty about it because you didn't earn it. I'm not saying anybody in this room, but that's how some people are. They inherited it, so they feel guilty. Some people do things to get their name up on the wall. Some people today do it anonymously and then tell everyone. Isn't it true? Yeah, just confidentially. That was me. You know? And everybody tells everybody that it's anonymous. They're doing it for significance. Some do it for connection. Some do it for contribution. I don't care why a person does it, but we do it. But if you're going to work with a group of people, you better make sure the why touches on all their needs. Does that make sense? When it's you, whose why does it have to be? Whose why does it have to touch? Whose purpose does it have to be? Your own for you to be moved. So if you know the result and you know the purpose, now you need the M, which is the massive action plan. We also call the massive action plan the map. It's your massive action plan, your map. How are you going to get there? What are you going to do? And by the way, when you're crystal clear on what you want and you know why you want it, you can make a big map. You can brainstorm a million ways to do it. Not all your houses are going to work. That's why you make a whole map. And then go back and gradually asterisk the ones that are the most important and go hit those. You might get the whole outcome in the first two action items and get rid of your whole rest of your list. This is RPM. This is how I operate. Now, if you never did this on paper and you just did this thinking process in your head, you'll get invaluable resources. If you learn to put this on paper, it'll be more powerful because then your brain isn't racing and you can see it. If you make it into a system that you personally use, your productivity will explode. If you teach your whole company to do this, your company will go to levels you can't even imagine because everyone will maximize their productivity. And it is different than any other system in its essence because it causes a different focus with a different level of emotion, greater creativity as a result of that, and then it shows you how to leverage it all. Does this make sense? Yes. So those three pieces, results planning, asking what question? What's the first question you're going to always ask? What do I really want? What's my outcome? What's the actual result I want from this day, from this week, from this conversation, from this meeting? Doesn't matter what it is. If that's all you ever do, you're already practicing RPM at a fundamental level. But if you want to juice it up, you ask the second question. What's the second question? Quick. Why do I want it? Why? What's juicy about this? What excites me about this? What do I really want about this? If I'm going to call this person, why am I calling them? And then you know what? When you get a stronger why, the action items change because you're in a different what? Who knows? A different what? Make that same call without any clear outcome and any clear purpose, or the outcome is get back to them. That's my goal, get back to them. What's going to be the quality of the writing or the phone call or the vocal quality when you're getting back to somebody? Versus if you know my outcome is to make sure they feel like I am so in their corner that I'm here to make sure their needs are completely met, more than they've ever met by any person they've ever spoken to on the phone before, and that I'm here for them and they can count on me. Why? Because that's who the hell I am. Because when people deal with me, they have found someone like no other human being they've ever dealt with, and I am a source they can count up. That's why I don't have to go chase 8 million new clients. That's why they stay my client for 17 years and pay me $1 million a year to talk to them on the phone once every 10 days for 10 minutes and see them 3 times a year for an hour. And I get a piece of the upside, so sometimes I get a couple $1 million for that. Why would somebody pay you that kind of money? Because when my guy calls me, he gets delivery he can't get anywhere else on the face of the earth. So I pride myself in that. And by the way, that feels juicy to me. It means my need for contribution, for my need for growth, my need for significance. I'm the best at what I do. My need for certainty, I deliver. As a variety, who the hell knows what's going to happen when I pick up this phone? It's different every time. Because the market's changed, something's going on. How many follow? Say I. It's a very different thing than, oh, I'm getting back to my client, right? And the way you're going to come across is different. And everybody will go, wow. And in life anyway, by the way, the people who are the very best on earth that get paid everything like 100 times more than everybody else, they're just a little bit better than everybody else. It's like, a bear's chasing you. I don't have to be that fast, just that much faster than you. Right? In life, you just have to be a little bit better than everybody else and you get all the rewards. And that little bit better, to me, is RPM. Okay? Now, RPM is also a visual chunking system, visual way to chunk. Remember the other day when I showed you this little concept of this chunking system? Where, you have this to do, and this to do, this to do, I gotta do this, I gotta do this, and this, and this, and I gotta do this, and this, and this, and this, and I gotta do this, and this, and this. By the way, this is what happens when you ask yourself, what do I gotta do? Which I'm gonna show you, you should still do. You should ask yourself all things you do and write them all out. And then when you've written it all out, you look at this and you step back and you say, okay, but what do I really want? What do I want out of this project? What do I want out of this day? What do I want out of this week? What's the most important outcome I can get out of this day, this week, this project, this element? What result do I want? And you go, well, I see this and this relate to that, but you know what I want this. Oh, if I want this, then this and 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 this all fit into that targeted outcome. How many follow? And I might go, you know what else? I also should do this and this to get that outcome. They're not even on the list. But these might get me there faster than all three of these. Oh, by the way, this and this and this and this and this and this and this, all right. Oh, and guess what? This and this and this and this and this, all right. And guess what? There's my day. 1, 2, 3. 3 outcomes, 4 outcomes, 5 outcomes. It's a different world. You will get yourself completely out of reaction. You start to take control. My question to you is this. How important do you think it would be for you to master a skill set like this, for you to have the quality of life you want, quality of business you want? What would 0 to 10, what would be the level of importance you'd give this, my friends? How big? 10. Where would you put it for you? 10. Raise your hand if it's a 10 for you. Let me see your hands. Good. I'm not going to teach you today. But I'm going to teach you enough that you can take yourself to the next level. If you want to go deeper, you will. But I didn't want you to leave without the fundamentals of it, because just the fundamentals will help you to take what we've got here and take it home and go to work at it at a much more effective level. So, if someone gave you a test and they asked you, what would be the fastest way for you to change your productivity? It would be stop focusing on what to and focus on your, you do nothing else but that. What does RPM stand for? The Rapid Planning Method, also known as the Results Planning Method. It also stands for the 3 questions you're going to start to ask. What's the first question? It is not, what am I going to? The first question is, what is my? And then as you get more clear than that, outcome starts broad. To make it more specific, you say, what's the specific what? Result that I'm after. What do I really want? What's my outcome? What's the result? So usually I start out with the outcome because it's broad, and the result makes you make it even more specific. Okay? Start broad, get more specific. And by the way, writing that down, you might write your outcome and scribble out and rewrite it a few times so you got something that really grabbed you. That takes more time than just writing a to-do down. But it's time well wasted if you want to think of it as wasting. And pretty quickly, by the way, you know what you're going to find out? There aren't that many outcomes you're after in life. Lots of activities, not that outcomes, and pretty soon it'll be a shortcut. Just like rewriting your handwriting, you won't just cut the time in half, it'll cut it by 2/3 because you'll know right where to go. That's what starts to happen. You start developing what I call pathways of power, where you know, this is what I do, this is how I do it, this is how I get to that result. And most people have no clue how they get there. The second P stands for, the second question I ask myself is what? What's my purpose? Why am I doing this? And there are different emotions for each of us that drive us most. Some words will completely change your state. When you have that right word, for me it's impact, for example, or love, or contribution, or making a difference, or have fun. A couple things like that change the game for me overnight versus I have to. How many hate having to do things? Say I. You don't ever have to do anything if you get clear about your real purpose. And then the M stands for my massive action plan, also known as my map, which is what you would call a to-do list. But it's the to-do list to get this outcome through the state of this purpose. Make sense? RPM. If you do nothing else but learn to ask those questions, use them as an organizational tool, and you leave today with that alone, your life will change. Because you're going to change the sorting device of your own focus. That's the power of it. Now, you might wake up in the morning, if all you do is you don't do RPM, all you do is on. Here's on. Outcomes and necessities. You know your outcome and what's necessary to get it done? That's a shortcut. It's not as emotionally rich, though, by the way, when you leave out the purpose. Do you get the idea? It takes longer to think through and write out the purpose, but there's a different state you're in, as you just said, ma'am, when you're connected to the why. In fact, it'll change your to-do list. It'll change your map. It'll change what's necessary. That's why it takes a little more time to do initially, but after a while it won't. It'll just be in you. What's my outcome? What's my outcome? Okay, let's get crystal clear on the outcome. Okay, now that I got that, now, why? And you'll get good at the why. A couple key words. You'll start to know the words that always fire you up. And we're going to look at that in a moment, by the way. Because words change emotion. And change the emotion, you change what people actually do. Not what they write down they're going to do, what they actually do. You change the quality of how they do it. Because it changes their state. Make sense? So if you're going to master RPM, and you're not going to do that today, but if you want to, let me just kind of give you the overview. There's 7 principles of power. Just capture them if you want. First one we're going to come back to right now, but I'll start with it at the top. Believe it or not, above anything else is the power of language. Why is language so important in managing your life, your emotions, your results? Because we don't experience life. We experience the way we repackage life the minute we label it. See, if you have an experience and in your body, your nervous system is feeling this sense of discomfort, then think of it this way. There's these uncomfortable feelings coming through you. Think of it like a funnel. And all this noise, environmental stimulus is coming through you. And then you have certain words you use very often, 2 or 3 that you use. Kind of like you're taking all this juice in and you're going to have these cookie cutters. And the words you use most often are pissed off, frustrated, and annoyed. You're going to get a very different experience than if the person has the habit of being enraged, right, crazy, want to kill someone. Or someone else who goes, you know, that peeves me. They take that same stuff and goes, peeves me. Someone else goes, I want to kill someone. It has nothing to do with the actual experience. It's the words. I'll give you an example. Anybody here know who Ken Blanchard is? Wrote the 1 Minute Manager. So Ken's a dear friend of mine. I've known Ken for, 30 years. And if you haven't ever heard Ken speak, he's the real thing. He's such a sweet soul. And he takes complex things and makes them really simple. Ken is one of those universally happy guys. And one of the reasons he's happy is his language patterns. See, we all have habitual language patterns. We filter the word and we put the label of what it is on it. And the minute you label an experience, the experience becomes that in your body. So some people will say, well, if I said to you, you're mistaken about that, John. How do you feel if somebody says you're mistaken? What if I say, John, you're wrong? Who feels a little different now? What if I say, John, you're lying? Who here will get into real intense experience if somebody says you're lying, right? Because your integrity's there. Now, all you have is change one word and we can change your biochemistry, right? Well, we use words all the time with our experience just because it's the habit of what we use most often. My mother's passed away, bless her soul, but when she was alive, I told this story. She used to always be humiliated by everything. She'd call my house back the days before email, and I was, traveling like crazy, and there was a answering machine, the old style answering machine, and she'd leave a message. I'm humiliated that I have to leave a message for my son. What is he, President of the United States or something? And in the beginning, I got hooked, but then I noticed my mom was humiliated by everything. She was humiliated by the drugstore clerk. Because anytime she was uncomfortable, she called it humiliated. The one day I explained to her what humiliated was, and we had this interesting conversation. And I got to see there were many other choices besides humiliated. You could be pissed off, frustrated, ignored, loved. But we get in the habits of attaching things. So Ken Blanchard, the reason I bring him up, Ken and I are good friends, and we were talking one time about how words affect people. And he goes, Tony, he said, I have this attitude of life. The worst a day can be is a great day for me. He said, if you're going to go golf or you're going to go fish, you can't get back from golfing pissed off, because the worst a day of golfing is going to be is a great day. And that's the label he has for everything. Great. So he went on with a group of people I know. Some of them are from the entertainment business, and some are some, very mucky bigwigs, and they're used to having things their way. And they went to Africa, and they went on a safari, and Ken went with them. And I'd been on the safari before, and it's a pretty intense safari and a beautiful safari. And the people running it know their stuff, first-class organization. But one particular person, we'll leave unnamed, who's a very famous Hollywood producer, decides that he wants to take control of the show from the guy who runs it, who lives in Africa, and he knows what he's doing. And so he says, look, I want these roofs off. I don't want them just open up. I want them off. I want to be able to shoot the whole time. And he said, look, sir, he said, right now everything's fine, but if the truck were to break down, you want that roof on. We don't want to leave off the roof. The guy was so abusive, the man finally bent. So sure enough, Ken, all these guys are out there, they're taking pictures, and they're out in the middle of this crater, Ngorongoro crater. If you've ever been there, it's an unbelievable place. It's like every kind of animal you could imagine is there. And sure enough, as they start going later, the guy goes, let's stay a little longer. And he's very influential, and he pushes the guide, and they stay out longer than they would. Now they got to rush back before darkness, and they don't have the roof on, and you guessed it, the truck breaks down. They're in the middle of nowhere. No one's answering the radio. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my. Everything's going to creep in. And one guy's going, oh my God, we're going to die. Oh, it's your fault. He's screaming at the other guy, and the other guy's screaming at him. And I got the play-by-play from two other people that were there besides Ken. But they told me that in the midst of all these people freaking out, angry, and people scared and everything else, because you could actually see the animals coming, and they're taking out their rifles, and it's getting tense. And in the middle of stuff, Ken looks out and says, this is inconvenient. And he wasn't faking. That's the word he used for this experience. It's inconvenient. And that's the word he uses all the time for things other people are stressed out about. And as a result, that's all it is inconvenient to him. And sure enough, guess what? Finally, the radio worked. Within a half hour, a guy came out. They brought some other trucks. They got these guys out of there. They left the truck there. Everybody was fine. But the people are like, oh my God, you killed us. Other people, we're going to die, we're going to die, we're going to die. You son of a bitch. I mean, every language pattern you can imagine. Only one, inconvenience. Much of your life has nothing to do with your life. It's the way you use language habitually. Language is the trigger for meaning, and meaning equals emotion. So when I think of RPM, it's about language, because it's about the questions you ask, because those questions control what you focus on, but it's also the words you use to describe your outcome, the words you describe to describe the why. One word can change the whole game. If your description of you're a stockbroker, and what you describe, what you do is you go, I got a cold call on people every day, that's not going to get you moving very much. Remember, one guy I was talking to, he was so much more successful, he was brand new, he was blown by everybody, so I went and interviewed him. Because, all these other people are bitching and griping, he was having such a great day. I said, what are you? He goes, I'm a treasure hunter. I said, what do you mean? He goes, I'm searching, every time I call the phone, I'm searching for buried treasure. You see, you don't get treasure every time, but when you get it, there's going to be, if you keep digging, there's going to be a treasure. And sure enough, you get one client that would do more business for him than all the other guys got. But the difference was when he called people on the phone, he's searching for treasure. Does that change the state? Does that change the quality of his voice? Will that actually change the result he's likely to get with a stranger? Yes or no? So ladies, you've got a ring that this man's about to give you, he gives you, and somebody else sees it and they say, well, that's kind of nice. Versus that's magnificence. Versus what a rock. Would it change how you feel? Yes or no? A little or completely? I say to you, you come to me and say, Tony, I'm single. You meet thousands of people. I'm your friend. Help me out. Set me up, man. And so I say to you, okay, I know this really nice girl, this really nice guy. You got a state about it, don't you? What if I say, I know this woman, I know this man, I know this woman who is delicious. I didn't even say anything that makes any sense, but how many are in a different state already, right? It's like if I said during the break, we're going to have some really nutritious snacks. Yay. Even people that are health-oriented are like, yay. But when I say it's delicious, does it change completely how you feel about it? Yes or no? You have to know every moment of your life. This is not about planning. It's about creating. Think about planning as creating. Whenever I think about planning, I'm creating something. And you create things with both your vision and your language, and then your action. But your vision and your language will shape how you feel, which will shape what you do or don't do. So this is the part that takes more time in the beginning, takes longer, but it's so much faster because once you know the patterns of what move you, you just use that and boom, it's like knowing the light switch to turn yourself on and rock and roll. And anybody who's the best in the world at what they do, they know how to turn themselves on every time. They know their triggers. That's what RPM's really about too. So this is not some frickin' time management program. Like, because every system, I don't care, and obviously Mr. Covey is a dear friend of mine, senior and junior, right? This is not Franklin Covey. This is not a little planning system. This is not pulling out your BlackBerry. This is not using things or whatever tool you use. This is a system of thinking and feeling and producing massive results that you want to take to whatever system you go to, and ideally maybe have a system that is set up this way. But even if you don't, you can do it with just the thinking process. So I want you to start with this first principle of power, this principle of language, which you might think of as the principle of passion. That's really what it is. The power of language is it produces passion. And by the way, passion is the genesis of genius. It's a great quote by a brilliant man, Tony Robbins. No, I thought that sometime. I thought that's really true. I wrote it down. It's like passion is the genesis. You see some genius in anybody, it's because they're passionate. That's where genius flows. And passion is because it's about something more than yourself. It's about something larger. Now, let's do this for a moment. Let's have you write now, anywhere you want in your notes. I'm going to give you 1 minute, and I want you to write as fast as you can words that would increase your emotional intensity. Like for me, I'll give you some of mine. Mine are passion, mine are love, mine are make a difference, mine is transform, have an impact, right? Have fun. There's certain key words. There are roles in my life. You know, father of the clan, you know, mentor, leader, friend. Certain mentor, there's certain language patterns. When I think about myself as that person, I do things differently from that place, right? So I want you to just write down any words at all for 60 seconds. Just write down real fast, what are some words or phrases that would excite you or juice up your life if they were being used regularly, that'll move you emotionally. Choose words that you're associated to, either in a context like your health or your business or just overall words. Just write words that would move you. And if you write a word and it doesn't move you so much, cross it out and write a different word that moves you more. I'll warn you, a 5-cent word is often more powerful than a 50-cent word. You can say, I am becoming a facilitator of transformational change around the globe at this moment now. Or you can write down, kick-ass, take names. Sometimes kick-ass, take names will move you more than facilitator of the human transformational experience. Write some phrases now that you might use when you think about things you want to achieve in your business. What do you want to do? And write them in words that are passionate, not just increase sales. What would you do? What would you put in front of that word, increase sales? If you're going to produce, crush it, transform the marketing department, take it to a new level. What are some phrases, words, that if you put them around outcomes that you have for your business, it would excite you to do it. Instead of having to do it, you get to do it. Can you think of an activity that you normally do not like to do? You'd rather have somebody else do it if you could. Think of an activity like that right now that you either put off or you try to get other people to do, or you finally do get other people to do. How many can think of an activity like that? Part of your business, part of your life. Great. Someone stand up and tell me what that activity is. By the way, Stand up if you can remember also a time when you did the activity and you actually enjoyed it. It was an exception, but you actually enjoyed it. Who's had both those experiences? Something you hate to do, but then you had a time you can remember where you really enjoyed doing it. It was the same activity, but somehow it worked. Okay, how about right here? Yes, give her a hand. Do I have to tell you a BMI hand, ladies and gentlemen? Tell us, what was the activity you don't normally like to do, you like to push off on others?
Paperwork.
Paperwork.
Yeah.
Now, the word paperwork alone, does that, when you guys hear that word, how many of you don't want to do it either? Raise your hand. So just the way she's languaging, by the way, she's not telling you the outcome, she's telling you the activity. Think of it this way. If someone told you the process of having a child and all the processes you have to do to raise that child, and you were focused on what you had to do to raise the child versus the outcome, would you ever, or the purpose, would you ever do it, yes or no? If someone would have told you in advance all you would have to do in your business to make your business successful, and you were focused on all you had to do, the to-dos, versus the outcome of owning and growing your own business, would you ever have gotten into it, yes or no? So she's focused on the to-do, and she's languaged the to-do in a way that is incredibly moving. Okay, so paperwork. And so when you normally think about doing paperwork, how do you language that to yourself? What do you say to yourself? I
hate doing it. It bogs me down. It doesn't add to my results, which is making sales.
That's right. And notice, it doesn't add to my results, which is making sales. Great. So now, there was a time you actually enjoyed paperwork?
Yes.
Tell me about that time.
When I was younger and I was just starting out in my career, and it gave me a way to process my day and order my thinking. So it gave me these chunks of accomplishments.
Ah. And so when you talked about paperwork then, you didn't call it paperwork then, did you?
No, I called it probably priorities.
Yes. What did you call it? Priorities? What?
Probably priorities.
So what would your phrase be back then, do you think? When you're thinking about this, you'd say, I'm going to get to, or I'm going to do,
I'm going to prioritize my day. These are my projects.
Ah, she called it prioritizing her projects. How many feel better about that than paper frickin' work? Now, if she just changed that language alone, I want you to think about right now. Do you have some paperwork waiting for you at home?
Yes, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
So what is that paperwork really going to accomplish if you get it done?
Well, in some ways it moves things forward. I mean,
if you don't do it, what's going to happen?
Things aren't going to get scheduled. They're not going to make deadline. Clients are going to be unhappy.
And what will that do to sales?
That will drop them eventually. Or it'll make me run around trying to fix things.
So is sales important to you?
Absolutely.
And are making people happy, your clients happy, important to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, the sales are important because basically what I'm doing is helping people with their business. So that's...
Yes, and how many people fail because they don't do their paperwork, do you think?
Well, I mean, if you put it that way, that's not why they fail.
I didn't put it that way. I just asked the question.
Different question, yeah.
How many saw that? Did I say people fail because they don't do their paperwork? No. If I said that, her brain would have said no. I just asked her an honest question. How many small businesses do you think fail because they don't handle their paperwork, i.e., they don't handle the individual transactions and the details of their priorities effectively? How many businesses do you think fail for that reason? How many do you think?
I think definitely all of them can fail if they don't do that.
And you teach these people what to do so they can succeed?
Right. No.
Isn't that what you do?
Yes, yeah. But wait a minute, no. When you're talking about paperwork.
No, I don't talk about paperwork. I talk about results.
Right.
And part of the result of a sale is to capture it, deliver it in a form where it can be both followed through on, accounted for, details of. Otherwise, it's part of a chain of value. You can't just get someone to say yes and have them get the final value. Most people like to simplify to just the yes. But the real value is not getting someone to say yes. Salespeople think that way. The real value is delivering each step of value along the way that allows you to continue to get that value back to the customer and clients. If I said to you, what's more important, a molecule or an atom?
The atom.
Really?
Well, the molecule.
Okay, which one's more important? The molecule or the cell? The cell or the organ? The organ or the body?
Right. It's
The body or the community or the ecology or the planet or the solar system or the universe. Which one's more important?
To me, it's the little things that make up the big things. I don't know if that's quote unquote the right answer, but it's the little things that make up the big things. So to me, that's more important.
Is paperwork a little thing or a big thing?
Well, it's a little thing,
So that's the most important thing, is the little things?
but it makes up a big thing, which in the end you could say would be important because it feeds the purpose.
It feeds, look at her face, it feeds the purpose.
Yeah.
Paperwork purpose.
Right. Oh my God.
So let me ask you a question.
It's an epiphany.
How important is paperwork? How important is paperwork?
It's very.
0 to 10, where would you put it?
10.
Yeah. So maybe we need to call it something different than paperwork. What is it really? If you were to name it today, not just what you did in the past, what is it really?
It's the steps to getting to the purpose. If I had to read
It's also a promise that's
Yeah.
being kept.
Right.
Are you about keeping promises?
Absolutely.
Have you dropped out your promises because you didn't have your paperwork or priorities organized?
Sure, or stressed
Or
out
have other
about it.
people dropped it out because they didn't get the information needed in a timely fashion? And most businesses, you're telling me, probably fail because they drop out the little things?
Absolutely.
Because they think it's a little thing when really most people are majoring in minor things, and this is not a minor one, is it? But we start thinking it is, and the minute we give it a label that it's a minor thing that doesn't really matter,
Yeah.
then what happens is we no longer give it the focus, and we don't give it the focus, and then it bites us later on. The truth is, which one is more important? The molecule or the atom? The molecule or the cell or the organ or the body? Which one is more important? They're equally important. You take any one out of the chain of existence and the whole thing collapses. There is no little things and big things. There's just the things. There's the things that matter. Is this one of those?
Yes.
If you were going to coach your son or daughter or a child or a dear friend in a business, what would you tell them about paperwork?
I would tell them that if it's important.
Can you hear the change in her voice? How many hear the change in her voice?
Does it change?
Is there a power in her voice right now, yes or no? An authority? Go ahead, tell me what you tell them. You tell them what?
That paperwork is extremely important to the outcome. It's, part of the passion of the purpose, and that's really all you have in life. And I did have that conversation with my daughter.
Give her a hand, ladies and gentlemen. Do you see how important it is, A, to be aware of your language? Language creates meaning, meaning creates emotion, emotion determines what you're going to do or not do. You can never again think about time management in terms of to-dos. You need to start with language. The questions you ask and then the words you use to answer it. That's why you got to craft your outcomes, craft your results, craft the purpose. Takes longer, but you'll do it. Not only that, you'll enjoy it. She says, I'm going to go home and crush that paperwork. That's the word I would use. She'd go back and she said, I'm going to be, and what if she created a role for herself? I am the queen of paper prioritization. I am the Madonna of, I'm the master of whatever. She comes up with some playful thing, and it can be silly and stupid, but it'll change completely how she thinks about it and she feels about it, and she'll go straight doing it. How many follow this? By the way, how was she influenced to remember the truth? By me lecturing her? Telling her? No, everything was asking her. Now, in addition, if you want to follow through, remember, if you link more of your needs, there are 6 needs. If you link 1 need to it, you got an interest. 2, you got a drive. You link 3 needs to it, you're going to do it. Now, she was linking feeling insignificant to paperwork. Significance is one of the most important things in her life. Right? She wants to significantly contribute. True? And it wasn't that significant to the contribution before, but all of a sudden, now she gets it is. It's part of the chain of life. It's part of the chain of keeping a promise. It's part of the chain of my integrity. It's part of my chain of being able to make a difference. And you know what? Everybody else is lousy at it, and I'm not anymore. Because how the hell can I help somebody else if I don't do it myself? And so now she sets a new standard. So now it's significant. And by the way, if you want to make it more fulfilling, she can also say, you know, I'm connected to it because it's connected to the what, she said? To the outcome. There's a purpose here. Now there's connection. Now, doing this helps me to contribute. Well, I'm starting to meet a lot of different needs. Contribution, significance, connection, love. That's enough to get her to do it. Now, when she goes home, she can even develop a strategy to enjoy it. Like I interview people that do things that other people hate, find out how they do it. Somebody loves to clean their house. I say, great, well, let's look at these 6 human needs, because if you love it, it meets many of your needs, at least 3 or 4. On a 0 to 10, cleaning your house, how much certainty does it give you? And the lady says, 10. You say, why? She goes, because I know how to do it well. And I do it well every time. And I have control of it. Before your emails, as a way for you to get a sense of accomplishment, knocking a few off, doing something that's meaningless, you used to, when you're stressed out, organize your desk. How many are old enough to remember that? Now you don't even have a desk. Your desk is your laptop, right? So you knock off emails and things to feel a sense of accomplishment, which is you're just being active. You're doing activity. You're not accomplishing anything. Nothing significant. You're doing movement, trying to make it feel like achievement because you feel uncertain about things, out of control. That's what you used to do with paperwork, so you could take it back. What else? I get variety, she says. Cleaning the house? She goes, yes, I have 5 children. You never know what you're going to find. 0 to 10, how much significance? 100. Why? She goes, when I'm walking around the house, she goes, I play tapes like yours. I do significant, important things. I have time to think through my life as I'm doing these things while I'm accomplishing something. Plus, she goes, most people have a dirty house, and mine isn't dirty. People come over, it's spotless. I feel proud. What else? Connection and love from cleaning the house? She goes, yes, because while I'm cleaning, I pray for my children. I'm ironing, I'm praying for them. 10. Growth from cleaning the house? Yes, because I'm listening to tapes, I'm thinking of the future, I'm creating my life. Contribution? Yes, to my kids, to my family, to myself. She meets all her needs. That's why she loves cleaning house. Somebody else uses language like, I'm not cleaning that frickin' stuff. It's a waste of my frickin' time. So it all depends on what needs you relate it to. How many follow? Change your words, change your perception, change your procedures. Some people say, I love paying bills. I'm going, you love paying bills. Yes, there's so many of them. And they're always changing. Really, variety. What else? She goes, well, I go, but I pay the bills in different rooms of the house. And I play different music in each room. And then she says it feels significant and she feels connected because she says when I sign the checks, I think of the person and I send them love. And I think I want them to prosper. And then she goes, I know that comes back to me. It's just what you focus on. What you focus on is first controlled by the words you use. And that's controlled first by the questions you ask, whether you're aware of it or not. How many get the power of this principle, the power of language? Raise your hand. Say I. Let's put back on the stage then. Here's a couple other principles again. I won't walk you through them all in detail, but I'll give you a little step at a time here. So first principle is language. The power of language, which I think of as the principle of passion. Second power is the power of results focus. I'm not going to take any time on this because you got it now, don't you? You focus on the result. It's like taking the power of your mind and body and brain and putting it in laser power instead of having it scattered. You're no longer scattered on activities. Third principle, really, of RPM, is the power of purpose. No more time on this one. You got it. Does the why change the how? Yes or no? Does it change the quality of how you go about it when you're doing it for a different reason? Yes or no? I'll give you my core belief in life. Motive does matter. Motive does matter. If you want to know my pain in life, my ultimate pain is people think of me as a motivator. I hate that term. Mr. Motivator. You know, people go, I don't need any motivation. I said, well, that's good because that's not what I do. Right? No, they'll have a nice big belly. They go, I don't need any motivation. I'll go, that's obvious. You're highly motivated to eat. Right? I'm the why guy. I want to know why you say you want to lose weight, but you keep eating. Because what motivation is your motive for action. I'm very interested in what your motive is. You should understand your motive, your why, your purpose. That's where all the power of life is. And I believe motive does matter. If your motive in your business is just to make money, you can make it because you're focused on it. But I believe life moves to support whatever supports more of life. And I think a reason why HomeX or a Zappos grows the way they do is because they have a higher purpose as well. And a higher purpose is to serve something more than themselves. See, if I'm just trying to meet my needs, I'm going to get a certain level of insight. And I looked at my life, throughout my life over the last 30 years and thought, stuff happened at times that anybody who was there would go, that's impossible. No way that could happen. How could he know that? How could you shift that person? How could you change that situation? I've had these moments throughout my life. And I believe insight comes because I wasn't focused on me succeeding or failing. I was completely focused on serving them, and the insight shows up. You're trying to take care of your family, you're going to get a different level of insight than just yourself. Trying to take care of your company, even bigger insight. Trying to take care of your community, trying to take care of the world, humanity, without being ego, not saying it. If that's really in your intention affects the quality of what you're exposed to, of the insight, of what comes through you. Motive does matter. And we can always shift our motive. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to meet your needs and others. The game changes. And by the way, if you do this in your planning, i.e. creating, the game changes. Okay? You make it a ritual. RPM is a ritual of questions. You got to get it in your body as a sequence. When you get it in your body as a sequence and you lock it in and you condition it, it'll just happen. It'll happen like, what do I need to do, used to happen inside of you. Next principle, number 4, it's the power of mapping. That means that once I know the result I'm after, once I know why I'm doing it, I got the right language, I need to come up with a map. You know what's interesting about a map? It doesn't always work. How many of you ever used before, in the old days, before they had Google Maps, there was a company called MapQuest? Whoever made the fatal mistake of using this crappy product? And what happened if you use MapQuest? What usually happened? You ended up getting a place worse than if you would have guessed. Because their map had nothing to do with the reality of the territory. Well, the more you do something, the more you're able to come up. The first time you do a map, you might be a little off. But if you do a map again and again and again, pretty soon you start learning the pathways to get to a result quicker, don't you? When you start making these maps, these action items, you're going to start to find certain ones get you further than others. And pretty soon, what took a long time, you're going to know the shortcuts. Oh, I know how to get from here to there quicker. I know the map. That's what used to be your to-do list. Now it's going to be a map to an outcome that's being fueled by your purpose. Okay? And then very quickly, as a principle, number 5, the power of chunking. So you've been in this seminar this week, and you got all this information. And I've attempted to get you to at least capture it in one place in the form of principles and actions. That alone chunks it a bit. That means you could turn that part of your book, kind of review the principles, right? You know, you can read the whole book, look at the principles, and you can look at your action item and say, okay, what does this relate to? You could just make it a to-do list of all these things you're going to do and figure out when you're going to do them. Or you could take all those to-dos. You could say, okay, these all relate to marketing. These are all the actions related to the outcome of making sales better. These are all the outcomes made towards culture and improving my culture. And you could take this random list of to-dos and maybe fit them in 6 drawers, 6 categories. See, years ago, I started do chunking. I started to realize I could get out of stress very quickly if I just learned to chunk things. I'd not only get out of stress, but now when I thought of my day and I got interrupted, instead of going, oh my God, I got 57 individual things to do, there's only 3 things I'm after today. I get refocused on my outcome. How many follow this? Say I. You can do this with your project. You can do this with your week. You can do this with your company. So after a while, I came up with this idea. What if you could imagine your own home, the home you live in right now. What if we could take everything out of your house and you weren't there? And we dumped it all into just boxes. And the boxes got all collapsed into each other. and you were going to move and you weren't around, and then people just took all your stuff and just dumped it in the living room of your new house. Everything mixed in there. Underwear, toilet paper, soap, tissue, notebooks, computers, books, cosmetics, all mumbled and jumbled together in the middle of the floor. Would that be somewhat stressful for you? Yes or no? But what if, in advance, you took everything in your life and knew it would fit into one of, let's say, 2 chests of drawers, 6 drawers in each, 12 drawers. Maybe giant drawers, categories. Like everything fit into, home appliances or cooking or intimate wear or whatever. If you had those 12 and everything could fit in one of those, you could take anybody in that room, once they knew those categories, how quickly could we transform that living room? How fast? Yeah. Oh, this goes here, this goes there, boom, 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 boom. And by the way, when it's done, how quickly could you then get what you want? You know exactly where to go, put all your focus in there, you open the drawer, you find what you want. Wouldn't you like to be able to do that with all your outcomes? All your action items? I'm going to show you how. And this process is a simple way of managing your life. And I'll give you the big picture first for a moment, and I'll scribble it up here as a chunking device. Think of your life this way, as a gross generalization. And by the way, chunking is an art, not a science. What does that mean? Is there a right way to do chunking, yes or no? No, there's no right way to do it because it's art. What somebody else thinks is beautiful, you might think is ugly. Chunking is to meet whose needs? Your own. Now, if you're trying to chunk to help other people, then you're going to have something that's got a little more science than art to it. But think of it this way. If we were going to try to manage your life, what if we had a life management system, not a time management system? Because the only reason for time is it's a resource so you can get the life you want. Is that fair to say? And let's take 2 aspects of your life. But one area is, let's say, your personal life. That's an area of your life, your personal life, that you want to manage. And another area of your life is your professional life. Whatever you do professionally, running the company, marketing director, sales director, maybe you run many companies, you're an entrepreneur. What if we could take everything related that's most important in your life personally, and we could focus on the things that needed to happen regularly? So for example, if you don't focus on making your health better, does it get better or worse as the years go by? Which one? You can't afford not to give it consistent focus. And by the way, do you have to keep improving it, yes or no? If you try to keep it static, is health a static thing, yes or no? No. What about relationships? If you don't focus on relationships, do they tend to get better or worse? So there's some areas of your life within your personal life. If this was an area of life you're managing, is your personal and professional life. Your whole life could be managed in these 2 categories. If underneath these, we could say everything that matters fits within 6, 8, 10, 12 drawers. They might be things, and I would call these categories of constant and never-ending improvement. For short, we call them categories of improvement. These are areas that you've got to constantly focus on once a week, once a month, some of them once a day. They're areas that never go away. Does that make sense? And so in your personal life, what would be some areas you got to constantly focus on? You might say, well, there's my health. There might be a drawer called family. There might be another one on finances. Does that make sense? And within those areas, you could have specific goals for this year, for this month, for this week. You might have certain musts that had to go in there. But you could put everything in there, and you could look at it once a week or once a month to make sure you're on target. Am I making sense? Yes or no? Would this help you to chunk your life a little bit? Yes or no? Because if your whole personal life could fit into 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 12 max of these, you could chunk it, and you could keep track that I'm still making progress. Because most people make progress on what they focus on. So they focus on their business and their body deteriorates. Who can relate to this one? Raise your hand. Or they focus on their body and their relationships deteriorate. You're so damn into yourself you're not even here. Or they focus on their kids and their intimate relationship breaks down. But if you had a way to keep on target, you could still put more focus on some things than others, but you kept it balanced, your life would work better. What are some areas, categories within your business that you have to constantly focus on and improve? Someone tell me. What are some categories that never go away? Tell me. Marketing. That would be a drawer. What's another one? Sales. What's another one? Accounting, finances, cost controls. What's another one? Culture, empowered employees. Do you think you could take everything in your business and maybe put it in a maximum of 12 drawers? And then whenever you had a meeting, you could say, what are our outcomes? Instead of this long list, you go, what are our outcomes around empowering our employees? What are the outcomes for this year, for this quarter, for this month, for this meeting related to sales? What are our outcomes for this meeting? To marketing. And guess what? Then you don't have this situation where you're doing great one part of the business, the other part bites you. See, if she doesn't do the paper... work, i.e. the finances, the production, whatever, and she focuses only on sales, we can guarantee her failure. It's only a matter of time. And it's not because she doesn't care, it's because she doesn't have a system of chunking her life. She gets overwhelmed because she thinks of sales is all these things. More likely, she makes paperwork all these things. I talk to people all the time. Somebody who doesn't work out regularly, doesn't exercise regularly, I'll say, how important do you think work? Oh, yeah. And you'll finally get them where they say, I'm going to work out. But I'll say, why haven't you worked out up until now? I know you're committed now, but up until now, I want, not excuses, I'm not making you wrong. Just tell me, when you think about working out, tell me how you think about it. And listen, here's what they'll say to me. Well, God, it's so much work. Really? Well, tell me what do you got to do to work out? So, well, you got me right now. I don't even have any running shoes. I don't have any gear. I don't have any clothes. I'd have to go buy the stuff. I'd have to drive to the sporting goods store and, then I'd have to go in there and try stuff on. And, I don't feel very good about my size now anyway. It'd be uncomfortable. And then, after I pick what's working, I don't really know what I should be wearing. I don't know if I'm going to run or I'm going to work out or lift weights. So I don't know what to buy, but let's assume I got all that stuff. Well, then what? Well, then, I got to go to the front and sit there in that damn counter and wait, and then write the check and then get in my car. And, well, what else do I do? Then I have to find a place to work out. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, I'd have to, go on the web and search for, clubs nearby. And then, then I have to drive to each of those individual clubs and I'd have to go in and, kind of go through the tour they give you and then sit through somebody trying to pitch me on buying 500 years of subscription to go there. And I don't like to be sold. And, well, let's say you bought one. Well, then they take a picture of you and you look ugly. It looks worse than your driver's license. And, then each time I go there, I have to go there, I have to drive there, I have to find a place to park, and then, I got to go in and show my badge, and then I got to go find the locker, and then I got to hang my stuff up, and then it's going to drop, and, I put on my stuff, and then I got to go wait for the first machine. It's probably sweaty, so I have to probably wipe it off, and then I go to one machine, another machine, then I got to come back, and now I got to take off my sweaty clothes, and now I got to go take a shower and see parts of people's bodies I don't really want to see. And then, after all that, then I got to dry my hair again, put on my makeup, put on my clothes that are probably wrinkled, put in the smelly bag, and then I got to go show them the thing so they can stamp my thing so I don't have to pay for the parking. And then I got to find my car, and I got to get my car, and then I got to drive off. Want to eat? Sure. What does eating take? Well, you just do it. Let's just drive there and eat. Eating is 2 steps in their mind. Working out is 429. The way you chunk things is what makes you like them or dislike them. See, when I first wanted to drive that stick shift car, it was a lot of chunks. I got to watch the road, drive this, do this, push this in and out too, and watch the rearview mirror? No way. But now, you watch the road, you drive the car, you know all that's one chunk. It's in your body. How many follow what I'm talking about here? Say I. So you can over-chunk something into too many items, or you can under-chunk it where it's overwhelming to try and do one big step. That's where the art comes as far as chunking is concerned. So in your life, you want to be able to come up with categories for your personal life, categories for your professional life. Does this make sense? So let's try something. Let's give you a quick little example. What I want you to do is, if you take a look here, I want you to, the middle of this circle is 0, and the outside edge is 10. 10 means where you want it to be. Whatever a 10 is for you, it's different for everyone. So 0 is you're not where you want to be. 10 is exactly where you'd like to be. So if you look on the screen, what I'm asking you to do is, let's say, for example, the physical area of your life. And I want you to go. Now notice this person went up about 70% of the way. They're a 7 out of the 10. Their idea of a 10, of what they like to be physically, they're not. They're not a 0. They're about 7, and they draw a straight line across. Then we look at emotion and meaning. And we say, where do you live emotionally? How much joy, excitement, happiness, passion, aliveness compared to what you want? How much meaning? And this person went 0 to 10, they went, I'm about a 3. I'm about 30% there, or 2.5%, 25% there. Where are you compared to where you want to be? It's not somebody else's judgment. In your relationship, 0 to 100% of where you want to be would be 10. By the way, if you don't have a relationship, it would be 0. Just in case you need coaching on this. Okay? And then if we go time, where are you in the mastery of your time? Where time serves you versus you serve time. And this person says, I'm about 7 out of 10 that. How about your career? How's that going, 0 to 10? This person goes, I'm an 8 on that. Draw a straight line across. Where are your finances? I'm doing damn good there. I'm at a 9 on my finances. And where are you in your sense of celebration of life? Life is a celebration. You feel a great sense of contribution. They said, no, I'm pretty stressed. I'd have to say, honestly, I'm at about a 3 there or 2 there. Do yours real fast. Just draw a straight line across where you are. Center is 0, out is 10. 0 is not at all. 10 is exactly where you want to be. Just real fast. You got 30 seconds. Great. So look at your design that's in front of you right now, and just ask yourself this question. If this was the wheel on the car called your life, how would your car run? Better yet, what if you're going to drive that car 150 miles an hour? What could you guarantee is going to happen, my friends? What's going to happen? You're going to crash. How many are going to have a lot of stress when you start trying to drive this thing fast? Say I. Guess what owning your own business is? Driving 150 miles an hour, isn't it? So what used to be okay when you work for somebody else, that is kind of bumpy and stressful, when all the responsibility ultimately is yours, and it's out of balance, it's pure pain. How many can relate to this in some way? Say I. Things get this way because most people ask the question, what do I need to what? Do. They don't have a set of categories that once a week they look and go, okay, what's my most important outcome for my body this week? What's my most important outcome for my relationships? Yes, in the middle of everything else, I'm going to put those rocks in first. Somebody gave you that metaphor, right? I'm not going to pour all the water in. First, I'll put the rocks in. Here are the most important outcomes for anything else shows up for each of those areas, because otherwise the time's going to be gone. How many follow what I'm talking about here? Say I. So that's why we do a once-a-week planning session where we look at our categories, both professional or business and personal. Make sense? Now, the way we do that is with language also that's compelling. Here's some examples of how some people have chunked their life. These are their categories of constant, never-ending improvements. For Suzanne Williamson, it's family, business, friends, community, physical well-being, finance, emotional, and spiritual. This is my old list. It's been updated, but with my physical power, I called it world-class health and fitness. By the way, why did I use that language? I could have just said body. It juices me up. Physical power, because I want the power to get up and rock, to take the room, to make it happen, to shift things for my wife, for myself, for my family, right? Second, emotional juice. Why did I call it that instead of just emotion? because emotion doesn't. But emotional juice, I want an emotionally juicy life. Outstanding family life, extraordinary friendships, absolute financial freedom, Renaissance man, the Kanai of AJR, the constant ever improvement of myself, the creator of the good life for my family, extraordinary communicator, leader, contributor, force for good, and spirit and soul force for God. Those are my spiritual outcomes. Gene Carter has emotional fitness, family, heart, and soul, physical prowess, forever friendships, home sweet home, gracious giver, health wizard, spiritual soul. Here's what I want you to do. Write your categories right now. Just a first run. Do not be perfect. If you had to take your personal life and chunk it into 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, probably 12 most categories that everything in your life fits in, that you look at on a regular basis, write them down, but then put the words in front of them, rewrite them so they're compelling. I'm going to give you literally 8 minutes to write as fast as you can. Come up with the categories for your personal life. Go. How many think it would be valuable once a week or at least once every 10 days, 3 times a month, sit down and lay out a plan for that week or 10 days where you put the big rocks in first, looking at these categories, making sure you didn't miss the stuff that matters most to you. How many would agree with this? Say aye. Would you have to write down every action item, yes or no? What would you write? Your most important outcomes and why. Make sense? Now, so quickly, let's take it a step further. Let's look at the next category of professional, and I'll give you another wheel of professional just as an example. This isn't the wheel, because it's different for everybody. And let's put up on the screen, and this is just a sample. This is not the business, this would be you. So this person says they run a department for a company. So one category they're measuring, am I empowering my teammates, my personal team and our teammates in the company as a whole? They have some outcomes around creating extraordinary identity and relationships. Are we creating the relationships we need with customers? This person runs the sales department. Am I delivering my core must results? This person wants to measure that regularly. They say, all my life is really about empowering my team, making sure we have extraordinary relationships, making sure the core must I promise I deliver. I got to keep focused on that every week, every month. Certain amount of strategic planning, which gets set aside because I'm usually so busy in the to-dos. Certain amount of cost management I got to do because if I don't do the paperwork, the whole thing falls apart. And I got to keep making my skills stronger. I can't just keep doing what I'm doing. I got to take some time to make my skills better so that I'm sharpening the saw, so to speak. So I'm not hacking at the tree with something that's bad. I got to take it up to the next level. How many follow in a sense of this? Now that person would measure those, but here's some examples of that. So I mentioned to you, I have 4 kids, but I mentioned my daughter Jolie, so I'll use her as the example. And she, was a situation where she became an actor. Now as an actor, think about this. What do actors focus on? Quick, first gut. Somebody says getting a job. Okay. If you're focused on getting a job all the time and you're not making your skills stronger, you might not get that job. How many follow this? Say aye. Some people focus on just training themselves. Lots of actors always going to actor classes, but they don't go out and focus much on getting a job. They wait for someone to call them with an opportunity. How many follow the challenge? Some of those people, how do they get jobs? If they're a decent actor, they've got a what? An agent and or a manager, and sometimes both. And without focus by that manager or agent, are they usually going to succeed? Yes or no? No. What if they get a job? Where does all their focus go? On doing that job well. So if I'm in the middle of the job, I'm doing the job well, and I'm not anticipating how to make my skills better, I'm not managing my manager or agent, I'm not looking for new opportunities, and in the acting skills, no matter how good you are, do jobs disappear quickly, yes or no? Eventually, do they all disappear, yes or no? We can keep our businesses forever if we're successful. That's not true of a job. That's not true of an acting job. I don't care how successful, 10 years, 12 years, 14 years, it's going to change. So my daughter Jolie was always stressed out because things were always dropping out. So I said, honey, she goes, it's just so impossible. I can't do everything. I can't like manage my career and go out and get voice lessons and dance lessons and then, go out on calls. And I'm just listening and I'm in my head making it right down, capturing a list. And she's telling me a million items, but as she's listening, I'm saying, there's only 5 things she really has to focus on. And these are the 5. She needs to maximize her current what? Jobs. She wants to make sure the job she's on, she's doing the maximum job she can. That's got to be a daily focus. But she can't use that as an excuse not to also make sure she's working to obtain what? Does she have to constantly be going out on rolls still, paying attention, knowing what's out there? Yes or no? If she drops that out, she might do well here and then she'll be without work forever. That's typically what happens. Some people win the Academy Award and they don't work for 3 or 4 years because they don't have a part of their focus. They're focused on the Academy Award, the victory, the celebration. How many times have you seen that happen? And then third, she's got to focus on the management of Jolie Inc. I said, that's what it is. You're a company. You got to manage your managers and your agents. Every week, she's saying, what do I need to do to make myself better at the current job? What do I need to do to make sure I'm keeping my focus on getting new jobs and networking, doing what's necessary? What do I got to do to keep on top of my managers and agents? They're not going to just do it without my focus. What else does she have to focus on? Expanding her current acting skills so she gets better. She can't use that as an excuse and then, when I have more time, I'll work on getting better. No. Even if it's once every 10 days, she's not working 7 days a week on a show. She can do an acting class. She can find the best coach. She can be going for a class once a week on her throat or voice, whatever. Right? And then, of course, the last one is being a networker extraordinaire, expanding her identity. Guess what? Everything she can think about doing as an actress is in those 5 categories. And so if every week she's looking at that and thinking, what's the most important? Come on, guys, nice and loud. Most important in that area or outcomes in that area? Is she going to stay on target? Is her career going to be, by the way, what happens if we take that wheel and we take whatever's strongest on your wheel? I'll show you what I mean. This should really be interesting, me doing this visually. If we take your wheel of life, your wheel of your career, and you got one thing like this and another thing way out here and something else like this and something else like this and something else like this, and this is your shape of your life, we all know what's going to happen. It's going to be stressful. But when we find the strongest area, let's say it was your finances or your career or whatever, and we find that outside edge and we use that as the target for the base of where you are right now. And now we say, what's it going to take to close the gap between here and here with my body? What's it going to take to close the gap from here to here in my training? Because guess what happens? Once we get here and it's all rounded, even if it's not 100%, who knows what's going to happen? How much smoother is your life going to be? And by when it's smoother, can you go faster? Easier or harder to go faster when it's smooth? This is the power of RPM and having categories of constant, never-ending improvement in both your personal and professional life. Because, by the way, sometimes you're doing really well in all the categories in your business, and then you have a divorce, which kind of interrupts it just a smidge. Who knows what I'm talking about here, right? Or not a divorce, you got a problem in your family. Somebody's not feeling loved, not feeling appreciated, whatever the case may be. This is the goal of what we're trying to do here. So you can create categories within your professional life, but the one I want to get for you is let's do one together that I think will be helpful for you to chunk all we've done this week. Let's look at a business. Let's look at some categories that you're pretty familiar with. And the reason you're familiar with them is this whole course has been focused on them. What's one area of your business, if we go starting at, kind of 1 o'clock, that you've got to constantly focus on, my friends? What's an area? Mastering what? Come on, nice and loud. What's another area? Next. What's another area? And how important is time? And notice we said time and what management? That's what this is. This is the part of the training on results. Results management. What else? Cost management. What else? Innovation and constant every improvement of products and services. What else? The legal systems, technical systems. What else? Culture. What else? Now, there could come up with other categories, but you could probably fit 99% of your business in those 8 categories, couldn't you? By the way, you could fit almost everything we've taught you and every action item you have within one of those categories. So instead of this big ass list you have at the back of your book, maybe it's time to chunk it. So it's not so overwhelming. And by the way, once you chunked it, some of it you can hand to somebody else and go, these are your outcomes. Help me clarify them. Here's why they're important. Go figure out how to do it. And by the way, when people know the outcome who are competent and they know why, do you need to tell them how? No. In fact, they may have come up with a better how than you would. How many follow this process? Say I. So here's what I want you to do. Let's do with where you are right now. Every business I own, how am I able to walk in and have 12 companies? I've got companies that are doing $150 million in business with 1,200 employees. I've got businesses that are brand new startup-oriented businesses. I got businesses in the hospitality side, meaning a hotel. I've got businesses in nutraceuticals. I've got practice management companies for doctors. I got this educational business that I'm a part of. They're all radically different businesses, but guess what? When someone's going to talk to me about it, I can take everything they're saying and put it in one of these 12 drawers. So every business has it. So here's Namali. Namali is my resort in Fiji. It's the #1 resort and spa in the country. 525 acres, 3 miles of ocean frontage. And I got everybody from, you name it, Anthony Hopkins, Quincy Jones, you name the celebrity artist, musician. We're the top place in the country to go, right? Built the thing from scratch. How do we make it better and better and better and win all the awards? Because we've got categories of constant, never-ending improvement, and we're focusing on how to improve it always, the X factor in each category. So what do we got? Effective business and financial plans so we can run the company effectively. Securing all of our event revenue, because in the travel business, there's a certain way you have to secure the revenue. Managing and mastering our what? Maximizing and improving our what? Marketing and sales systems. What else do we want to do? What's our language for this? Keep customer promise and create what? And mobilize them. The reason we got all these titles and all these awards is because customers come out of their minds. It's the greatest vacation in their life. When I told Chet about it, Chet's been all over the world, and Chet's, been to some very nice places, and we're good friends, but he was like, yeah, Tony, yeah. And then he emails me and calls me, this is the most incredible experience. And he's crying at the end. I've never cried leaving a hotel before, like I didn't want to leave. Because it's an emotional bond, it's an experience. It's not just the beauty of the place, it's the people. So there's a very different experience for people here, right? What else? We got to keep re-engineering, strengthening, improving all our what? Technical, communication, customer databases. We have to have world-class organization of what kind of employees? And who else? That's right. We constantly got to improve and present the finest what? Now, most of the rest of these might fit in your business. Unless you're in the restaurant business, you probably don't have food on the list, but we have to because it's part of our business. You got to think, what's the most important thing? You got to constantly improve. So nothing's left out. We got to maximize and improve our current community impact because I believe we must impact the community. So we have 2 villages on either side of our resort, and we employ about 200 people. We're the biggest employer in the area, and we send all the kids to school as my gift. I've been doing it for 22 years. So guess what? When all hell's breaking loose, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the acknowledgement, but I'm saying it to you because when all hell breaks loose, guess what? Our people, the community there supports us completely, right? We didn't do it for that reason, but there have been a couple times there was a coup in that country. And it happened many years ago when the coup happened. Some people are coming, they're going to say, you know, I'm going to ramshack this resort. And guess who was standing out there? The entire village standing in front of the resort saying, you're not touching Tony's property. I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. But what you give and you give and you give, it comes back. An identity. I've been through the births and the deaths and the upsides and the downsides, and we're there together. But it's because it's a focus for me. By the way, with all of my life, could you get off track and miss some of these? Yes or no? This is the ultimate checklist. Notice it's not what to do, it's the category, what must always be improved, and now you think of what the outcomes are. And you measure them, annually, quarterly, etc. And then finally, create effective plans for capital improvements because a resort's got to constantly be improved, right, physically. So there are several examples here you can look at later. Here's what I want you to do, real fast. You can use the 8 we just wrote down in the wheel, or you can create something else, but I'm going to literally give you, I want you to do this quick, what are the 6, 8, 10, 12 categories that cover your whole business? Make your business categories of constant improvement your first run at it. We won't have enough time to finish it, but I want you to get a good run at it. Ready? Go. How many got a decent outline already of the categories of your business? Let me see your hands. Fantastic. How many have added some language that makes it a bit more compelling for you? Great. That's what you'll finish. Ideally, here's what I would do before I got home, when I'm on the plane, whenever. I'd upgrade my personal list and I'd set some goals in each category. Just a few things. Simple things. I have my categories for my business or my profession. I do the same thing. Sometimes the outcome you want takes a long time. It's not 1 week, 2 weeks. It's a project. So a woman comes to me and she's stressed out of her mind. Her name's Nisi and she's got her wedding coming up. Now, have you ever seen a bride who doesn't have a wedding planner or even one that does? They're very often very stressed. So she comes to me and goes, I'm so stressed out about my wedding. And the reason is, you know, I'm doing all these things and really want to conserve the money. So I've got a wedding planner, but I can't use them in a limited way. I said, I understand. She goes, but also it's my husband-to-be's 50th birthday coming up, and I want to do a surprise birthday party. So while she's trying to plan her wedding, she's also trying to plan a surprise 50th birthday party. Now, how many action items do you think could show up when you start making a to-do list on those two things? In the middle of all your life, and she wants it to be absolutely what? What? And by the way, perfect will make you really stressed out on top of it. And all the language she's using, I'm so stressed out, I'm freaked out, I'm stressed out, I'm freaked out, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do. Keep saying that over and over again. I said, first, let's watch the language. Not the F word, I'm happy with that. I just mean the words that you use are putting you in a lousy state. If it puts you in a good state, I'm fine with it. Some people use words that other people will be upset about, they excite you. So let's take a look at this. Let's first step to getting a plan is called capture. Take all the stuff in your head and write it down. It's really like making a to-do list. That's still the first step. Get it all out of your head and keep it in one place, not 20 places. Like many of you have written on notepads over here and a book over there and a thing over there, and you're gonna like try and figure out where the hell to find this shit later on. Okay? You need one place, whether it's in your iPhone or whether it's on your computer or whether it's gonna be, you know, on a paper version of something, one place, right? A planner or something. But in her case, here's what we did. We created a capture list. We split it in two things, keep it simple. Things she's got to communicate versus results, actions, or projects she's got to get done. And so this is what we came up with real quick. She's got to call KP to put out signs. She's got to call and confirm a ban. This is what she starts telling me. I start writing it down. I need to take care of the parking situation. I got to rent 2 vans. I got to have a Friday breakfast. I got to have a Saturday breakfast. I got to have a Saturday lunch for everybody. I got to order the direction signs. I got to order the meat trays and pick up at Sam's. I got to pick up the donuts on Friday and Saturday. Oh my God, I got the plates and the silverware and the cake tables I also got to get. Oh, I got to get the caterer for Saturday and Sunday. Oh my God, I got to call and get an MC for Gary's party on Friday night. Oh yeah, and I got to order the mic and the podium for the party in the hotel. How many are starting to feel stressed already for her? And by the way, it kept on going and going and going. And so by the time you're done with your capture list, it'll be like taking this 5 days and turn to the back of your book and reading that long list. You go, no, I hate Tony Robbins. I hate Chet. I hate them all. So much here. I'm going home to all this other work. Unless you chunk it, right? Unless you're clear. So what we do is begin to chunk it. And when you have a project, it's not just this week, something that's long lasting. You got to come up with an ultimate what? What's your ultimate what? Come on, guys, your ultimate what? That's right. What's the ultimate outcome? What's the ultimate result? And so we came up with it with her. We said, what are you really after? Stop telling me all the things you've got to do for your wedding. Tell me what you want. We get so caught up in the doing, we forget what we want. Same thing with your business. So caught up in the doing your business, forget what you got in business for. So she says, well, we finally I want to create the wedding of a lifetime that's an incredible experience for Gary and for me and totally fun for all of our guests. That's different than I got to put on a wedding and a party perfectly. What do I want to do? Create a wedding of the lifetime that's an incredible experience for Gary and me and fun for our guests. Why? Second question, why? She says, it'll be a remarkable beginning for an awesome marriage. I want to express my love to Gary in ways he'll never forget in both the wedding and in the party. I want my family and friends to have so much fun. Now she remembers why she's picking up those signs or getting someone else to. Now we say, let's not write all the to-dos. This is a big project. Tell me just the key results. The big results that have to happen for you to have the most incredible wedding possible. She said, well, I've got to handle enough events in advance that I'm assured the weekend will be a success, and that'll make me relax during the wedding and even coming up to it. If I can handle enough of the most important events in advance. What else? I got to have a pleasurable Friday and Saturday evening enjoying my guests while the details are being taken care of by other people. She got that. Now that she knew her outcome, she knew how to get there. What else? I need to set up a fun day of shopping with Kim and Kay, her best friends, so we can spend time with them while we're shopping for the wedding things. So instead of feeling I'm stressed and not spending time with my girlfriends during the wedding because I have so much, let's have them take shopping with me. Let's do it together. And what else? I need to create a fabulous surprise 50th birthday party for Gary on Friday night during the rehearsal. Each one of these will become an RPM block of its own. How many follow that? By the way, once you do a few people's experiences like this, you'll start to see there's a pathway, a pattern that's the same for most weddings. Effective weddings, happy weddings. You'll start to know maybe the words change, maybe somebody has a 50th birthday, but you'll start to see the same pattern. And what took a long time to do the first time, you can do in seconds now. It's the signature. So let's take a look. One of those outcomes was create a fabulous surprise birthday party for Gary on Friday night. Why? Purpose, she's creating an RPM block. Why am I doing it? To honor and delight Gary, to have fun, to create a magic moment, to share my love with him at the deepest level. Okay, what's it going to take for me to create a fabulous surprise birthday party for Gary on Friday night? Well, I got to pick up the signs. I got to order the cake. I got to pick up the cake. I got to get an MC. I got to get an accurate count on the guests. I got to confirm the count to the hotel. I got to get a microphone. I got to get good stuff hanging on the signs. She'll then go to the next part of the project. But this RPM block is done. Guess what's cool? She can go back through that list and go, who can I leverage this to? Or how many of these things can be done simultaneously? And guess what she ended up doing? She got 3 friends. One did all the signs. One did the food. One did all the things related because she was more technically driven on stuff. And the 3 of them had a blast together getting it done. They put on the party perfectly. That sets up Friday night perfectly. By the way, how much does she breathe? And how much time does it take? All this sounds like a lot, but she estimated how much time will it take beside each one? And she goes, that's actually only 10 minutes. It looks like so much, but when you add up the total time, it's 3 hours. And I got 3 weeks. How many follow what happens here? In our head, we make it so much what? Bigger. And by the way, time will fill, activity will fill whatever time you give it. So when she locked it down, it's like, okay, that's handled. What's the next block? And all of a sudden, guess what her wedding became? 6 RPM blocks. 6 outcomes. 3 friends helping her. Everything went perfect. She was out of her mind. And most importantly, she felt totally in control of her life the whole time. That's a project. Now, you might leave here and do a project called your RPM for, let's say, one section, marketing. One section, sales. So you say, what's my marketing outcome? You'd be very specific about the outcome. Why are we going to do this? And then, what are the action items? You know, I'm going to go look at the Core Story website, Empire's website, and I'm going to read it all. Second, I'm going to brainstorm out what I think the story should be or the core elements. Third, I'm going to do the research here. Fourth, or I'm going to hire Empire. I'm going to bring in chat to come in or the group to come in and train our salespeople on it. Whatever you're going to do, that's the part of it. What else am I going to do in marketing? I am going to go take a look at our advertising and take the 17 items checklist of top advertising and make sure that's what we're doing. What else? And you make your list. How many followers? By the way, it'll take initially some time, but when it's done, you'll have a master plan for transforming your whole business.